Hey, my name is Alex, and welcome to another edition of Interview with an English Teacher. Today I have teacher Lindsay from All Ears English with us today. Thanks for joining us, Lindsay.
Hi, Alex. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and so I saw your website, allearsenglish.com, that you guys have a podcast and you
Yes.
provide useful English resources for English language learners. And
Yep.
so today I'd like to talk about two things, how you serve your audience of English learners. And then I also like to ask you some questions about, as a teacher, how you help other teachers too. And so tell
Sure.
me just, how did you get started with All Ears English?
Oh, man. All Ears English came out of my own traveling and my own living abroad, and noticing at the time with my co-host, my original co-founder, we both had lived abroad and taught English abroad and studied languages abroad and realized that there were a lot of things that could be done better, right? Students had been in classrooms, they had been using textbooks, and it just didn't seem to be working. By the time they were really needing their English, by the time they were professionals, they didn't have what they needed. So I thought there's got to be a better way with a more edutaining kind of vibe. So we think of our at least our podcast as kind of edutainment that keeps students engaged and having fun, but learning when they don't even realize they're learning. And so from there, we can go deeper with courses and apps and programs. But we start with having fun with English again.
Cool. I like that term, edutainment.
Yeah, me too.
It's a time where, like, oh, here's your curriculum textbook, and here's what we're going to
Yes.
read. I mean, in college, you have to do that, right? In academic studies, if you're learning English, if you're an English learner watching this video, you have to go through textbook, and you're
Yeah.
memorizing grammar, you're memorizing words. Tell me
Yes.
how this is how edutainment. Could you give me an example of maybe some things that you do that are a little different?
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to understanding why we're learning English. So at All Ears English, we have a very, very clear vision. And this goes for our podcast and honestly for all of our courses. In our courses, we do a more step-by-step method with a study plan and with truly built out lessons and learnings. But even for the podcast and the courses, it's connection, not perfection. That's our thing. If that is All Ears English, we believe in connection, not perfection. That means that to us, in our opinion, the main goal of learning English is not to memorize grammar, is not to be 100% correct, but it's always to connect with the human being in front of you. So that's where we start. And when we start from there, we become very clear for every single podcast episode, every single lesson of how to gear the lesson towards what's going to be most important for the student. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what have been some of your most, like, I guess, most downloaded podcasts for students that are like, ooh, that you've kind of noticed that those certain edutainment pieces that you put together, those are the ones that students really connected with the most.
I find that a lot of students, a lot of times the episodes about small talk and socializing are really useful because I think students are a little disheartened. I mean, by this time in life, it's still difficult to have that conversation that you really want to have, right? You've spent your whole life studying English in a classroom, memorizing things. But now, when it actually matters and you're in front of someone that you are interested in connecting with, you can't quite do it. So that is what I think students are often looking for is the socializing help, the cocktail party, the small talk. And that also intersects with business. We do a lot of stuff with business English these days. So having that small talk skill in the business setting is even more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm big into phrasal verbs. So, like, a big
Yeah.
business English word that I hear, and I work in marketing as well, and so a
Yeah.
big term we hear in business is this phrasal verb, circle back,
Circle
circle
back.
back.
That's
Do
good.
you do you hear that one a lot from your students or
Absolutely.
in your business?
Absolutely, Alex. This is what I love is, we observe ourselves as native speakers in our working worlds or talking to our friends, and we see what they say, and then we take those words. So that's one thing that we do in a lot of our curriculum these days is when we build courses, we actually interview native speakers or we survey them, and that's where we get our vocabulary. It's not from any list, any ESL business list, right? We throw that all away. We go straight to the source, the native speakers who are there in the working world. What are they saying every day? That's what we put in the course. So circle back is a perfect example of something that could go in one of our courses. 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome. I bet those conversations are fun for
They're
English
super
learners.
fun. Yeah, our team loves doing them and our students love it. And it's challenging, right? Really challenging.
Yeah. And so with that, do you work with beginning English learners, like intermediate, advanced English learners? What level do you tend to focus on?
Yeah. So our sweet spot, kind of our wheelhouse for some new vocabulary again, right, is more that intermediate to advanced student that feels again like they've been studying their whole lives and they actually need the English now. They need a little something more to get up to that near native level, that 99% fluency level. And for beginners, we're not exactly ideal. I mean, they can get to the point where they can understand our podcast, right? We've had students find our podcast and they say, "Oh, when I found you, I understood 50%. Now I understand 85%." We've seen that, right? And that's fantastic. But there are other companies, other podcasts, and places where absolute beginners can get ready for all ears English, and then they can move on to us after they're ready.
That's awesome. I think, I listen to podcasts when I'm doing the dishes or if I'm driving my daughter somewhere.
Yeah,
And so I can see an English language learner, if you're an English student, like I said, watching this video today, if you're an English student, all ears English sounds like a podcast I could just listen to on my drive to work, if you still
totally.
commute to work or if you're
Yep.
just doing something around the house. Um,
100%. Yeah.
I had one English student that I taught, and he said he listens to podcasts sometimes, and he'll listen to just like the English words to try to repeat throughout his day. But I think the way you're doing it is very like real life, like it's how it is in
Yes.
context. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so
Hmm.
so that's pretty neat to hear. So if I want to learn more about all ears English, and I guess if I'm an English learner,
Yeah.
what would I do to get started with your like? Do I just like find your podcast on my phone and download it, or like what should I do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if you're already a podcast listener, it's easy enough just to go into Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever you use. I use Apple Podcasts, but a lot of people these days use Spotify. What do you use, Alex, to
I
listen?
use Yeah, I have an iPhone 6S. I
Okay.
haven't upgraded to the 13 like a bunch of people, but
Yeah.
I listen to just Apple Podcasts. So it's this app.
Yeah.
It's got this look here, and it's an
Yeah.
Apple.
Exactly. So for our students who are already into podcasting, that's easy. They can just go to the search bar and type in All Ears English Podcast. If they're studying IELTS, we also have an IELTS podcast. It's called IELTS Energy Podcast, which we haven't talked about as much, but that's another thing we do specialize in. But if you're new, we have actually a fluency quiz, which is kind of cool. And if you want to stay on
Oh,
the web, we have another way that you can actually get involved. And I've found that students love quizzes. They love it. We
oh
all
yeah,
love quizzes.
yep.
Yeah. So they can go to allearsenglish.com/fluency score to get their fluency score and then get the resources they need for their level. That's where we can get started.
Awesome. I'll put those links in the description here too if you're watching this video, so you
Thank
can
you.
access that. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So you also have a YouTube channel, right, where people can go and look at?
We do. Yeah, we do. We film some of our recording of the actual podcast. So if you guys are more into YouTube, which I'm sure a lot of our watchers here today from your channel, Alex, are into that, you can also find us on YouTube. So just type in, again, All Ears English Podcast, and you will find the All Ears English channel. And we are there 100%.
Awesome. Cool. So then, as far as like topics, you said you do all kinds of like topics. Could you give me a couple examples of like categories that you guys tend to focus on besides business? Is there other categories that you touch on too?
Yeah, we've done it all. We do a lot of stuff at All Ears English. So these days we're really interested in kind of English for the modern global professional, right? The professional that is in the middle or beginning of their career. They're traveling abroad or zooming abroad for work now in these days, right? And they really need those intercultural skills, those international business skills. But we also do IELTS. We do fluency. We have a course where I actually traveled around the US. I don't know if I told you that. I think I mentioned this. Maybe you were there when we were on the conference, the ESL conference. But I actually took a road trip around the country and interviewed native speakers. I rented a car, got in the car, and I drove around the country and I created a bunch of lessons. We put it all into a course. And these are interviews with native speakers on the street, in a bar, in a restaurant, at a rodeo, on the beach, at a gun shop in Texas. I mean, it is really interesting. So that's the kind of thing that we like to build. We like a good challenge.
That's awesome. So when you interviewed the English speakers, they almost have had different accents, right, around the
Oh my
U.S., different
gosh.
native English.
100%, right? I interviewed people up in Michigan. So there you have, this upper Midwest accent. You're originally from Colorado, right, Alex? Are you from
I'm
or
kind of from
Midwest?
north of here. I'm actually from Wyoming. So there's a little
Oh,
bit of
that's so cool. I love
Wyoming to
Wyoming.
my tone, but
I love
mostly
Wyoming.
Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So I think the accent here is pretty standard-ish,
it
right?
is. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. But there are real accents. I mean, we interview some people in New York City, aspiring actors in California. It's pretty standard. Absolutely. Texan accents, deep South, Nashville, Natchez, Mississippi. I mean, the variety of English, right, just in this country is incredible. So I love traveling. So we wanted to take our students on a journey, kind of a journey to fluency, and that's where we take them in that course, and that's called the Connected Communicator online
I love
course.
that.
So
That's
yeah.
such a cool name, connected communicator, because that's what we
Thank you.
do. We connect through communication. So
You
that
got it.
I
You
love
got
the
it.
name of that course. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as a teacher, like, kind of your why as a teacher, like, was it because you traveled abroad that you're like, man, I love teaching English and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? Or, when did that spark hit for you as a teacher?
Yeah, I mean, I love teaching languages. I love teaching in general. I think I do get a lot of joy out of just showing someone how to do something and how to acquire a skill, seeing that light bulb go off, as a lot of teachers do say. I also love learning languages specifically. So I think a lot of it came from, I guess, my failures and successes as a language learner. I traveled in South America for a year in my 20s, backpacked, and there were a lot of moments when I was truly struggling with the language. And also, it's very isolating at times, right? When you're in a group of native Spanish speakers, you're on the beach, let's say in Colombia, and everyone around you is speaking to each other in Spanish really fast, laughing, and you feel kind of isolated. So that's, I think, honestly, like the connection, not perfection, came from my experiences, from my heart, kind of in those moments. And I realized, oh my gosh, what if, language should never be a barrier to connection, right? That happiness we can get through human connection. So it's still kind of burning in my heart, so we keep going.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. So if someone was new watching this and they were like, well, I want to be an English teacher,
Yeah.
what piece of advice, would you give them, as a new teacher starting out?
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about this because I know a lot of teachers are entering the market, right? The ESL market, as things have changed in China and around the world, a lot of people are trying to start their own thing. 100%. I think it's really important from a technical perspective to specialize in something specific early. So one of the best things that we did was that we went into IELTS. I have someone on my team who was an examiner for 14 years. So I don't recommend just going into IELTS if you don't have expertise, right? You want to make sure you provide a really good service, that students have success. But if you can find something, whether it's pronunciation, maybe it's listening, or something special about you, do that, because that could change a lot with your success. And then your competition becomes so much less. And then get in touch with why you're teaching. Again, for us, it's the connection, not perfection. But for you, it's probably something else, right? I mean, what would you say for you, Alex? What is that kind of deep meaning for you behind what you do? You've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, I've been volunteering with English language learners since I was 18, but
Wow.
I've been in many different paid roles. But one of the things that I've learned is my why is just to help someone change their life.
I love
If I
that.
can help you go from here to here and accelerate your English in some way, like you get that light bulb aha moment. I actually have it on one of my packages for my phrase it deck. It says experience the aha moment. And that
Oh,
means
cool.
basically, after teaching students for a while, they kept stumbling over. That's a phrasal verb for you if
That's a
you're
good
learning.
one.
Stumble over means to make a mistake and progress
Hmm.
forward in some way. But my students would get confused by phrasal verbs, and so for
Yeah.
me, I kind of focused on that as a niche,
Okay.
uh, and so phrasal verbs became my favorite. I'm like, okay, let's laser focus on
Yeah.
phrasal verbs. let's try to create some activities around this topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started building lessons around it. I even have a course on Udemy about phrasal verbs, and then like a how to order at a Subway video with some phrasal verb
I love
conversation,
it.
like
So
put
good.
on, because you have to put
Yeah.
the lettuce on the sandwich. So like, there's a lot of different things, but I put on a jacket. So that's what I
That's so
specialize
good.
in. But I didn't get into the other stuff like you, like the IELTS or the other niche that you're in. So I think
Yeah.
there's a really great space for you there. And as a teacher, if you're
Yeah.
watching this, the sky's the limit, but you have
Yeah.
to pick something, I think, right?
Pick something and build the true expertise, right? Really take the time to either hire someone on your team who knows the thing, whatever the thing is, or learn it yourself. But go deep, right? Go pretty deep, because we want to serve this market well, right? We don't want to be making things up. People do have their futures on the line, right? As you're saying, Alex, you want to see them go from here to here. That could mean, with IELTS, it could mean the difference between they get to bring their family, right, to Canada from Brazil, for example, or they don't, right? If they don't pass, they don't go. And
Yeah.
so we do want to help them get there. We're going to have you on All Ears English, Alex, because I know that our students love phrasal verbs. So we're going to have you on the show of both
Yeah.
YouTube and the podcast. And we'll talk about some aspect of phrasal verbs together. I think our listeners would love that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I did spend a couple of years. I even wrote a book with like activities on phrasal verbs too. And
Cool.
I didn't get like a PhD in it or anything, but I spent a lot of time researching it and
Yeah.
reading what other researchers have done. And I'm like, what? Why do we say, like, most other languages don't have this construct? And so I was like, well,
Yeah.
this is fascinating. So yeah,
Yeah.
I got into that. And a lot of my students that I've taught over the years are like, oh, that's how my boss talks at work. That's how my native English speaker friends
Right.
talk all the time. They use
I
phrasal
love that.
verbs. So yeah,
Yeah.
it,
It's really where you end up with phrasal verbs. It's really where you're speaking native English, natural, or you're teaching native and natural English. I love that. I think that was a smart choice, because they
yeah,
didn't learn these things in school, right? Often they don't, or the very basics, but we need a lot more than that.
yeah, for
So,
sure. And that's kind of, I think phrasal verbs are where that high intermediate advanced English learner. So
yes.
if you're at that level, that's when you should really start listening and practicing those phrasal verbs, because it will help you.
Yeah.
If you have a peer in a job interview and you know
Yeah.
more phrasal verbs that the interviewer is asking you, you're probably going to get that job over the other person who's also a non-native speaker that just studied academic, dictionary words. If you sound more conversational here with a few phrasal verbs, they're going to be like, oh, they understand my American audience, so I might hire them to serve my customers. So you
It's
understand
true.
what that can help you.
100%. I mean, I think when it comes to a job interview with business English, we talk a lot about the importance of building relationships and trust. And the fact is, once you have that extra language, it connects you more with that interviewer. And you build that relationship and trust that you do need to kind of move to the next level. Otherwise, I think the relationship just stays very flat, right? Very
Yeah,
one dimensional between you and the interviewer. Does that make, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
makes sense. So you
Hmm.
guys have a business, like you mentioned earlier. You
Yeah.
have a business course. What was the name of the business course again? I'm going to put a link in the description for you to
Thanks. I
take that
appreciate
business
that.
course.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate that, Alex. So it's just business English for the global professional. And I can send you the link later. We published this in the summer of 2020. And it's all, like I said, it's all based on interviews with native professionals in different industries, in healthcare, in IT, in pretty much every industry, CEOs and nurses. It's everything.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
absolutely. I want to provide that course for you as an English learner. If you're watching this, I'm going to put that link so you can watch it. And now I guess I know we talked about the English teacher, kind of
Yeah.
your advice for them. Let's talk now about our learners who might be watching this too.
Yeah.
What advice would you give an English language learner who's just, at the intermediate, advanced level, or any advice you give, I guess, for an English learner?
Yeah, I mean, just don't think that it has to be the same way it was when you were in school, right? You've learned in a certain way in school. Again, with the textbook, I call that the old way. Like, there are new resources. There are games like yours, right? The phrasal verb games. There are podcasts, there are YouTube channels where you can kind of create your own learning plan at this point, right? Which is kind of cool. Don't just fall back into the old habits. You're kind of wanting to redefine what learning is, and it doesn't have to be as limited as you think it does. That's my
Yeah.
advice. Hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think with language in general, we kind of pick it up as we go. That's a phrasal verb too. Pick up, meaning to like gather something new and learn it. We pick it up as we go. We learn these phrases. I actually created a brand new game too called Prep It, which has prepositional phrases in
Ooh,
it.
good name. That's great.
On the, next to the, across from the, near the. So it has a lot of those like object things you can move. So it kind of works well for young learners usually, or beginning English learners. However,
Love
if
it.
you're an advanced English learner and you just want to brush up, another
Yeah.
phrasal verb,
Y-
practice more. I can't stop. I will
Yeah.
talk with phrasal verbs as a native speaker all the
Oh,
time.
you should have a little thing that pops up with a sound effect every time one of us says a phrasal verb. It should be like your thing on your channel. Ding, phrasal verb.
I should. That's a good idea. I like that idea. I might do that in this video. We'll see. So yeah, phrasal verbs. Yeah. Cool. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you joining us for interview with an English teacher. And if you are watching this and you want to learn more, please go to allearsenglish.com. Like I said, I'll have the link in the description so you can improve your English with Lindsay and download her podcast. I think it's going to help you in your week to week and day to day improve your English.
Thanks,
So thanks
Alex. I
again.
really I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me on the show. And I'm excited about what you're doing with phrasal verbs and all of your work and creating these really cool games. It's fantastic. Thanks a lot. It's good. And I can't wait to have you on our show as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.